you will never do anything meaningful or gratificating in your life. You will never be successful or have any sort of respect or admiration for what you do. You will have to work tirelessly for a shit wage not even resembling what a dog should earn. All of this, and yet you defend capitalism. You defend capitalism under the basis that if we don't defend capitalism, we will have to deal with a big scary monster of communism. Because communism is apparently so bad, because we just assume that what was told of us by our teachers and our parents, who were told by their teachers and their parents about the Soviet Union and, communist China and Cuba, must have been such terrible lives those people must have lived. Even though they lived them anyway, just as you live your horrible life anyway. So, clearly, there's not that much of a difference, if nothing else. But that much eludes you. It eludes you the fact that, if their lives were so horrible, let's look at those comparisons of what made their lives horrible. Supposedly, under communism, there was censorship. Are people of the capitalist world censored? No, well, wait, yeah, they are. Because you can't do anything without somebody suppressing your opinion. Facebook or Google or YouTube or whatever can shut you up with a few keystrokes. Not only can they shut you up, but they can discourage you from ever opening your mouth in the first place, because other companies will blackmail you by using your Facebook status or your Twitter update or something of that sort as leverage never to hire you. Sure sounds like censorship to me. And the law does nothing to protect you because the law doesn't care about you. The politicians are too busy getting bribed by the rich people to only care about the rich people. When you have that kind of money, you could bribe them to care about you, but if you had that kind of money, you wouldn't care about the poor either. And you make that quite obvious. So, what else do we have that makes communism so much worse than capitalism? Apparently there wasn't freedom of choice under communism. Where does freedom of choice come in capitalism? That you can choose between Pepsi or Coca-Cola? Is that what you think a choice is? Do you think a choice is being able to determine what brand you want? Even though obviously millions of dollars are spent on these brands to have some kind of psychological manifestation. They are purposely directed toward a specific audience. Disney and Pixar are made money by the same people. The same people own both of these brands, but these brands target different audiences. Pixar tends to target a more mature child audience, while Disney targets a more what we typically think of as a childish audience. But they're both owned by the same people, as are most things in the capitalist world. A very few select people own it all, and they create these many different brands for you to consume. And whatever you consider these brands, whether or not you like them, whether or not you get something out of them, the fact is you don't really have a choice in the sense that you're thinking of. There is no competition. There is no evening out. There is no great equalizer. There are simply these rich people are making these many different brands, and you, the cattle, can choose amongst those brands until they decide to not issue them anymore, like McDonald's always does by getting rid of menu items, and after all these years never letting breakfast go beyond 11 o'clock. So clearly they don't think you have real freedom of choice. They only have their brands and what they think you, the cattle, deserve to have amongst those brands. So where exactly does the communism, the scary spooky-doo part of communism fit in? Where does it fit in that you would work tirelessly for absolutely nothing, and people could come in and take it all away from you? Where does it come in that you have to keep your mouth shut, or else you're going to have to pay for it in the long run? Where does it fit in that, your entire life is meaningless? You will never do the things you wanted to do. You will be called lazy, stupid, and uncreative no matter how hard you work or how hard you try. And not only that, but the more asinine side of that is people that have never worked a day in their life will be the ones to be called intelligent, hardworking, and inventive because they were born into riches and they use that, class lot in life that they had to get where they are. And they alone did not create anything we have. Obviously, people below them had to make it. Maybe they might have thought of it somewhere along the way, but certainly they're not solely responsible for all the things that we have. But somehow they get all the credit. They get all of the nice things that come along with that credit, and the rest of us don't. The rest of us, despite having much more of a heavy hand in it by getting our asses up to go to work every day, don't get jack shit out of it. And not only do we not get jack shit out of it, we don't get left alone one bit. We're always being pressured to do more. We're always being, subjugated to more abuse and more standards. We always have to work harder. We always have to work smarter. And we always have to blame ourselves. It's up to us to take responsibility for our actions. But anytime a rich person does something, they could slit the throat of some fucking hooker and they get off scot-free. But me and you, we can't even jaywalk without having to look upon our life and think about where we've gone and find religion and, be a good person. Nobody else has to be a good person, just us poor cattle. And as much as I keep saying that word cattle, you're actually worse off than a cattle because a cattle doesn't have to work. A cattle just stands there, eats, gets fat, then dies. You eat, you get fat, and you're gonna die. But along the way, you're going to be ritualistically abused, subjugated, denigrated, humiliated, and have to deal with that haunting realization that you're never going to accomplish anything. You're never going to be special. You're never going to do anything special. And the world will continue on as it always has. That's the problem with being self-conscious. So we are worse off than the cattle. And on top of that worse off position, people keep defending this capitalist enterprise because why exactly? They're always going to be suffering in life. Do they honestly believe that they're going to hit the jackpot, hit the lottery of capitalism, and become one of the exploiting class? That if they just work hard enough, and they, step on the right necks, and they kiss enough ass, that they'll get to be the ruling class? What kind of choice is that? Why is that anything to defend? What kind of sick fuck are you that you would need to defend that because you want to be the abuser? You want to be the murdering psychopath. You want to be that evil class that gets to subjugate the entirety of the world. And is it even really a choice? Because even if you could reach that position by some miraculous magic sky god lottery that doesn't exist, even if you could reach that position, was it really ever a choice anyway if you know that if you don't go along with the norm, if you don't continue to defend the status quo, you will either be plotted against and conspired to have that power taken from you, or you will simply be assassinated. So, even the ruling class really don't have a choice. And as time goes on, the population gets dumber. The population becomes more complacent. We all become much more brutalized, much more depressed, pathetic cattle, with the self-realization that we're cattle. And it just gets worse from there. That's really all I have to say.